Okay.
Doesn't take much anymore.
All right, we're going to open up this meeting for Painesville Township at 7:35. I had a delay due to the connection problem. So please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Thank you for muting, Rich. We appreciate that.
Okay, Mr. Mannery, please call roll.
Trustee Chiccanetti,
Present.
Trustee Hillier,
Present.
Trustee Pennock,
Present.
Fiscal Officer Patriarca.
Present.
We are here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mannery. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 20th, 2020 meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Mannery, please provide a summary of the work session.
Mr. Chairman, the trustees held a preliminary discussion about the 2021 appropriations. The trustees had a conversation with our insurance representative on renewing our health, vision, and dental insurance. The trustees talked about the curbside leaf collection that's coming up, the first one on November 14th. The trustees decided that unfortunately we're not going to hold a children's Christmas party this year because of the COVID-19 restrictions, but we are going to look to see if there's an alternative, something we can do, which we would decide at the next meeting. The fire chief talked about his budget issues for 2021. The service director talked about his budget issues in the coming 2021 appropriations. He also discussed hiring Ciros to do a camera inspection of the storm sewer on Stratford Road. Talked about repairing our front end loader. Also talked about paving Middleton Drive in coordination with Concord Township next year. Talked about selling our old furniture on Gov Deals. The zoning inspectors talked about the safe store location. I'm sorry. No, they did not. The trustees did discuss that Meyer is in the very preliminary stages of looking at a property on Menor Avenue to put a gas station in. That's it.
All right, thank you. So is there any old business from the floor? If there's anybody listening who would like to speak about old business, this would be your time. All right, we're going to move on to new business. If there's anybody on the line who would like to speak, address new business with the trustees, please provide your name and address for the record. Is there anybody who would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, there was a resident who contacted us today to indicate that she would like to speak at this meeting about the parking situation on Hawthorne. I don't know if she's having difficulty logging in, but I know that it's on that resident's mind and that she's watching the live stream. So if we wanted to make a comment about, we have activity going on on Hawthorne to try and alleviate the parking problem that's occurring there.
Well, so there's been some emails going back and forth, and currently zoning has it. Harley, would you like to address us where we're at? You have to go to the podium to speak.
I think actually Rich Constantine has been talking to the sheriff's office and been trying to make contact with the landlord. So Rich, do you have anything on Hawthorne?
I do, as a matter of fact. I sent a letter to the property owner, who is represented by a rental agent located in Beechwood. I also sent a letter to the occupants, and I received a call back from one of the tenants. There are currently 5 college guys living on the property. Each one owns a large vehicle. They're having difficulty, not just for themselves, parking on the driveway area and without parking in the road right away or on the front lawn. And they happen to like to host social gatherings to watch football games or whatever. And the number of cars on the property sometimes causes a double row of cars to be parked across the front yard and most of those cars that are in the second row have their tail ends in the road right away. We've had some conversations with the sheriff's department. Is Sheriff Frank present tonight?
No.
No. So here's the deal. When we have a parking situation, that we have a zoning resolution which governs how cars and vehicles can be parked on properties, private properties. We have a public parking resolution, which is standalone, which is enforced by the sheriff's department at the trustees' request for parking on roadways and in the road right of ways. Now, the question is, when cars, I had a good conversation with the rental agent. She was going to consult the property owner and get back to me, which she did late this afternoon, and we did not connect. She missed me. I was off duty when she called. Um, so we will have that conversation. I had a nice conversation with the one of the tenants. I understand what their situation is. However, even after that conversation, I was very disappointed to find that one of their overnight guests just last night parked on the street on Hawthorne Drive, left the car there in the street all night. Now, this is the kind of a thing we have to decide as a township. Are we serious about our parking resolution? If so, can we convince the sheriff and his deputies that we're serious about ticketing cars? We believe in warning somebody, giving a car a warning, and then the next time it's not a warning anymore. It's an actual ticket. That is how most places enforce their parking resolution. Um, I have a problem with the owner of the property. We're going to get down to this. We have a limit of 4 adult unrelated individuals forming a single household unit that can exist in a R1 zoning district, which this property is. We're going to work on that. They currently have 5 tenants living in that house. That's over our limit. So that is a zoning concern. Anytime they park on the grass and off the driveway, I am assuming at this point that their driveway is a legal, non-conforming gravel driveway, as are many of the driveways on Hawthorne Drive. Legal, non-conforming gravel driveways that have been in existence for a long time. At some point in time, I don't know when, that driveway at 206 Hawthorne was expanded slightly in the front, in the road right of way, by the way, with extra gravel. So the driveway was expanded. Legal non-conforming uses are allowed a 10% expansion. So we've got to get into the history of that expansion, and we have to cut out parking on the front grass. As far as parking any part of a vehicle in the road right away or on the roadway, it's not my call. I'm the zoning inspector. I don't govern traffic and parking on public property on public roadways. So that's up to the trustees. If you wish, you can convey to the sheriff's department that you wish them to be a little bit more forceful in enforcing our parking resolution. If you don't wish, then that's how that is. I am going forward with these zoning issues. I have actually 3 zoning issues on the property: the number of people forming a household, the parking on the grass, and the unnecessary storage of rubbish and debris in the backyard. So that's my report on 206 Hawthorne.
All right, thank you, Rich. So from our standpoint, I thought there were no questions to be asked. My understanding is this was all being enforced and it's being handled. And it sounds like you're waiting for us. I don't understand that.
Well,
So-
I
so-
keep getting reports that even when the sheriff's department is called, cars do show up and they drive down the street. Sometimes they pause and take a look around and then continue and drive away. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money to have a sheriff come out and just drive past or stop and do nothing. Um,
I
and
have-
the reports that we're getting from a resident or residents in the neighborhood are that that is what's happening.
All right.
There
Gary.
are cars.
All right, Rich,
we got-
Rich, hang on a second.
Okay.
I have gotten multiple communications from this resident. I contacted the sheriff personally because she shared with me the lack of results from her communications with the sheriff's office. So I put her in communication with the sheriff's office. He said that they were working, they would give it some attention. Now,
Okay.
she obviously reached out to you as well. And it seems like we're not getting any resolution to the issue because I have three or four emails from her stating exactly what Rich said. They call the sheriffs show up, they drive around, they don't do anything, and they leave. They don't
So then-
essentially, approach the situation. They just kind of drive through and walk away.
So who needs to ask the sheriff's office? I mean, is that something from us? Is that Mike? I mean, I guess Mike, I guess my thought, and it sounds like everybody else's, is we need to ask them to, I mean, this is obviously a nuisance. It is violation. It's causing an issue for residents. It's not like we want them to go around necessarily ticketing people parking on the street, but when it becomes an issue that is reported and is reported to them over and over again, and it's not being resolved, then, I mean, 1 or 2 warnings, but then, I mean, tickets is the only way you're going to start to address that.
I will call the sheriff's office tomorrow.
I spoke with the sheriff about it on the 20th at our last trustee meeting, and asked that, if they keep continuing to get calls.
Harley, you have to speak into the microphone.
But it-
Harley,
it
we
does-
can't hear you,
does-
Harley.
Sorry, I was just informing the trustees that at the last trustee meeting, I spoke with the sheriff. He was present at the last trustee meeting. I spoke with the sheriff at that time, informed him that we're receiving a complaint about a continuing situation about parking on the street, and that the resident was concerned that no action was being taken on behalf of the deputies, and requested that if we continue to get calls about parking on the street at that location, that he start encouraging the deputies to be more forceful and start ticketing.
But that was 2 weeks
And that
ago.
was on the 20th.
That was 2 weeks
So
ago,
has-
and
Has anybody spoken to Captain Izzo?
I have not.
No, I spoke to the
Okay.
sheriff directly on this. I have not talked to Izzo because he said he was going to be handling, the sheriff did.
And when was this?
I'll tell you, hang on 1 second.
so regardless, I think, Mike, if you could reach out to.
And there was actually on top of what the parking, I don't know if Rich, have you heard about the sound issue as well? Have you
No.
heard about the music issues as well with the sound stereos?
No, I haven't heard a word about that.
She sent me recordings that she sent to the sheriff. I forwarded them again to his email. So there's ongoing issues as well as the parking, but I can tell you, hang on a second. What's her
over
name
there.
again?
Vonnie,
Bonnie Hayden.
yeah.
I was over there Sunday morning, and I mean, there was garbage laying out in the front yard. There was garbage bags laying by the curb. The tree lawn area was an absolute mess, a muddy mess
Bonnie with a V.
from all the vehicles parking there. There were no vehicles parked on the road at the time, but again, we have this in our zoning code, and we have the parking restrictions, so we need to encourage the sheriff to enforce.
No, listen, we have some parking restrictions having to do with private property in our zoning code. That we do have. We have a standalone parking resolution which governs parking on township roads. So any vehicle in the road right of way, whether it's on the pavement or off of the pavement in the road right of way, is subject to being ticketed by the enforcer of the parking resolution of Painesville Township. Harley and I will take care of the zoning issues. But that only governs the parking on the grass on
Rich,
private
Rich.
property that's outside of the road right of way.
I will deal with the sheriff's office.
Okay,
You take care of zoning, I'll take care of the sheriff's office.
okay.
Okay.
We're good.
So the zoning violation, Rich, you mentioned, and whenever it's there, have you already issued zoning violations, like with the 5 people living in a 4-person house? Has that one been
Um,
issued?
Well, no, I wrote the first letter and I had a favorable response from the rental agent. And we have to continue that dialogue, and we will get that resolved one way or another. Um, the
So,
parking on the grass is
Rich,
another issue that we're
Hold
gonna
on,
get
I-
resolved.
This is, sorry,
Rich,
I'm wrong. We have a
Yeah.
similar issue at one other house that
Okay.
they haven't notified you guys on, but similar issue at another house, same exact problem.
All
But I think it was the same person. Now I
Okay,
realize
so
it's 2
Rich,
issues.
on this one here, you said you're working through it. Help me understand, what is there to work through? If our zoning resolution says 4 and they've got 5, how are they working
Oh.
through it short of kicking one person out?
Um, that is to be determined. We're going to find out that in all cases, when somebody is surprised by finding out they're violating the zoning resolution, uh, we have to inform them they have an option to file an appeal with the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance. So that is something that's going to be on the table. I'm not sure if they're going to try to do that or not. Um, but we haven't had that conversation yet. I sent a letter. I got a phone call. The rental agent said she wanted to consult with the property owner. We've got to give them an opportunity to come back to us. I mean,
So what's the
on
time frame
a
for
zoning
opportunity?
violation, let me let me ask one favor of our legal counsel. Jason, are you there in person tonight?
Yeah.
Yes. Would you please share with the trustees what you shared with me by email with regard to His Honor Judge Malcheski's way of handling zoning violations?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was in court with, yeah, it was one of the last times I was in court. Judge Malcheski suggested that normally our process in court is, we're after compliance as opposed to fines. If it comes to fines because they're not getting into compliance, so be it. So oftentimes we'll kick things out in the hopes of them getting into compliance. Obviously, eventually rubber has to meet the road, and either you plea or we go to trial. Judge Malcheski suggested trying to get no contest or guilty pleas up front, and then on his end, he would kind of delay sentencing in order to give them time to come into compliance. And if eventually they don't, then he would fine them at that point.
It's almost like some sort of diversion in a way.
That's exactly how he referred to it.
Okay.
It's kind of like a zoning, diversion.
Program. Okay.
So where are we at in the status wise, and what's the time, where are we at in the process? So we heard about this 2 weeks ago, and it sounds like nothing satisfactory has been accomplished. So you've sent them a letter. So what's the next step? I mean, and then I don't want to have a continuing conversation with this management company, because they're a management company and it's just the way it works.
Well, and I don't,
So just expedite it, move it.
and I don't want them to string this along until, I'm assuming these are possibly college students.
So that's what they said.
I don't want them to string this along and string us along until the end of spring semester, where.
And then new college kids
Right, if
come
they
in
have a
again.
new lease with somebody, they could then address it then. I mean, that's not satisfactory to just make do for the next whatever months until their current lease is up. I mean, there's something in the interim.
And I think it's important, real quick, to circle back though, because of the other complaint I've had, that I think it is time that we have a discussion with the sheriff in general regarding our parking thing, that we want it to be, somebody gets warned, we want to give everybody a chance, and after that, it's enforcement. Because we can't do spot enforcement or soft enforcement, because then there's no legs to, to stand on, or what we, teeth to what we have. So I think it should be some sort of warning,
The discussion, I
you know,
guess.
but
I could ask the sheriff to discuss it at our next trustees
That'd be
meeting
great.
I
on
think it'd be a good
17th.
discussion to
Yeah.
have. Again, we don't want them driving around at night just looking to
correct.
ticket people, because there are different circumstances out there, and.
All right, so Rich, you sent the letter, you've talked to the management company. At what point do we turn legal loose and file a court case? Where do we go next? I'm trying to expedite this thing because it's just gonna.
I have to, listen, I
Yeah,
sent a
sure.
letter pointing out
That was-
the zoning issues.
Yeah.
I got a response from the rental agent who asked for a couple days to talk to the property owner and come back to me. They made an attempt to get back to me today. That this is all within reasonable time from when the letter was sent out. I won't know whether I'm going to have to file an action in court until I have this conversation with the rental agent and find out what is on the owner's mind and what he intends to do about the violation that he caused.
Well, I
You
think this is what it comes down, and this is what we addressed. If you guys remember, we addressed this a while back with like the lawn and other type of things. We have these violations in a sense, but we don't have any really set like. We'll send them a letter. We'll see how they respond. Where we should be really saying, "Hey, you have 30 days to respond to this," and then we give them a deadline. If they don't comply, then we act on it. You know, not. So he's saying, let's see what the landlord's going to do. But I think get what Chuck was saying. Who cares what the landlord's going to do? He has to abide by this certain date, or we're filing charges. I think that should be really what it comes down to, especially if you've talked to him a number of times about this. How long do we give them time to do this? I think that's what we need to set a timeline that they have to fix it or they face consequences. I think that's
Harley?
We do have formal procedures.
Okay.
That we created, was that last year?
Yeah, I thought we,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought we talked
We
about this.
created formal procedures. The initial notice goes out and essentially they get 2 weeks, but I believe we did 10 business
Business day,
days
okay.
is how we worded it in our procedures. They get 2 weeks, and then we give them a final notice, which grants them an additional 2 weeks. And if they don't meet that deadline, then we forward it to legal. We draft the complaint and we file. Is what the trustees decided on at the
So-
time that we
And it
created.
takes the court a month to set the hearing, and you go in there and the judge says, well, you guys work it out.
No, that's not what he's saying.
So-
Judge is saying force the up front so that it gets handled, not work it out. He's saying have them plea then so it does get worked
So
out,
the,
not.
so the zoning violations, there is some time in there for them to come into compliance. On-street parking, we will tomorrow ask the sheriff to begin
Yes.
ticketing there. This has become a
Nightly.
significant issue. It's not an occasional party or garage sale. I mean, things like that, it's understandable. You have to park on the street, but this is a routine thing. It's becoming an issue in the neighborhood.
So Jason, question with filing. When we file, can you file against not only the tenants, but the owner of the property too? Because the tenants are college kids. They're going to be gone in a semester, potentially. And then the whole problem starts over again. So if we never tie in the owner of the property, we never really get resolved.
Generally, we do file against the property owner. You can file against, like in this case, you could file against the tenants and the property owner. I think in my experience, you're better to get some results if you just go after the property.
And the tenants, I mean,
The tenants are just tenants. They don't.
yeah. I mean,
They don't really
they were
care.
looking for a house. They found something that somebody said you can move in here, and
But like in that instance, we could file the complaint against all the tenants and the property owner. Essentially, anybody who has a relationship to that property, whether living there, owning.
So the thing with the playing the music, the loud and all the other stuff, I mean, they're causing problems. And I understand there's 5 people in that house. There's only allowed to be 4, and that's not their fault. So maybe you leave that one off the thing. But all these other issues we've got, the garbage around the house and whatever else you've got going on, it's an R1 district, and these people own these houses and they expect to have their property maintained. And when a rental property pops up next door and explain, oh, my kids were in college. My God, those frickin' houses in the neighborhoods were just trashed. And that's just what kids do. So we don't want that. So you just throw everybody against the wall and go for it and see what sticks to fix it. Done.
Chuck, one comment on Hawthorne Drive. If you really do a little bit of research, what we will find, and I have already found, is we have a large number of rental properties on Hawthorne Drive. Not all of those properties are a mess. Some of those properties are very nicely taken care of. Some are in between. And then we have a few that have been trashed by the tenants. So this 206 Hawthorne happens to be a problem property, and we've got a number of issues, and we've got to have a coordinated attack in handling it. I think we are on our way, following proper zoning enforcement procedures. Um, just because it's been 2 weeks doesn't mean anything. A lot of zoning compliance doesn't happen for a month to 2 months. And on a court diversion might not even happen for 3 months. It probably will happen eventually. But we're on our way from the zoning standpoint. We can use some help with the parking situation from the sheriff's department. That's all I'm saying.
And that's coming
I'm
tomorrow.
not satisfied with that. So Rich, my response to what you just said is I've seen problems, and especially in that neighborhood, those 3 streets over there have a lot of rental homes and have a lot of properties that other residents seem to complain about. And one of the problems that I have is I think we are too patient. And so I'm more apt to say, that's why last year we pushed this time frame. Document it and stick to it. And so you sent the letter, and in my mind, that clock started ticking. And if it's not resolved in 2 weeks, I don't care if you're having a conversation with them or not. We go to the next step, and then the next step follows. And now 2 more weeks goes, and whatever the next step is, these conversations can continue. But I want to be filing within 30 days of the initial letter, or whatever our time frame is. I'm not apt to having any more extensions beyond what we agreed to. And that's why we agreed to that. So I appreciate your effort in working with them. And you probably got a nice person on the other end of the phone who's being very reasonable. But the problem we have is this poor woman is stuck with that neighbor. And in the meantime, she's had her fill. And everybody else is too. So the clock is ticking. Whatever we're at, punch that ticket for the next one and push the envelope as hard and as legally as we can till we get resolved. When we get resolved, we back off and we're done.
So let me ask,
Period.
where are we on that timeline?
Rich, where are we at with that timeline?
We're probably 2 weeks into that timeline.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The first 2 weeks.
I said we are probably very close to 2 weeks into that timeline.
Okay, so the moment that 2 weeks count, that clock is hit, you go to the next step. I don't care what that next step is, that's where you go. I want to get to that 30-day window of where we can file. And if we can resolve it outside of court within 30 days, God bless them. I don't want to go to court because we got to pay Jason. But the fact that we have to pay Jason is why that's why we budget for it, to help our residents.
Okay.
So push the envelope. And then we'll handle the on-street parking issue separately. Mike's going to call tomorrow and take care of that. So then we'll ticket those guys. I mean, it's going to be just bam, bam, bam. Let's get it done, over with.
Okay. And just so you know, if I file a complaint tomorrow, the first pretrial hearing or arraignment probably will happen. Jason, give me some help. Like in a month?
Yeah, probably beginning of December would be my guess.
Which is fine, because
Okay.
what we don't want to do is,
There's nothing we can do about that.
well, but we don't want to get to the end of November and have the same problem, and then we're going to be in January.
And that's the problem, Rich, with extending these 2-week timelines, because we always have a 30-day window facing us at the end of it.
Yeah.
So the longer we drag that out, the longer we start that, before we start that 30-day clock to get in front of the judge. So that's why we pushed this back then, was to stay to this timeline so that we can get this somewhere, usually some legal action within a 60-day period.
Okay. We understand that, guys. Believe me, we do. We're just trying to, when we write the first letter, our assumption is that's the first contact somebody has had to make them aware they're doing something that is prohibited. So we've got to allow that letter enough time to get into their hands, give them a few days to respond, and then assess the value of their response in terms of attaining compliance. So we're at the point where the letter has been delivered. We've had a response. A couple days was needed because the person who responded wasn't the decision maker on the property. Now they're ready to talk. I'll talk to them tomorrow. assess the value of their response, and then we'll take it from there.
Rich, the trustees have spoken, so we're going forward, okay?
Good.
Next, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I forgot where we were at in the meeting. That was new business.
Yeah.
That was new business. All right, well, hopefully, Vonnie was on the line and she heard that. And, let's move on. Lake County Sheriff is not here. Move on to department reports. First up, Service Department, Mr. Thompson.
So we've been waiting for Cargo to finish the project this year, and as of last night, they have done what I consider to be the final step for the project. So if we are ready to sign the check and forward it to them, along with what I would hope would be a letter to somebody, maybe the county engineer, to voice our displeasure with some of the quality of the work and the timeliness of their attention to the punch list items that we had.
Broken record with Carvo, by the way. Right?
What's that?
It's Carvo we're talking about.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's a broken record every year, it seems like.
Well, they had one good year.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we,
Like the Browns. No, not like the Browns.
the check was in the stack. I think it's signed. If we do want to consider not using them next year, if they happen to be the low bidder, we really do need to send a letter this year, in my
So who's going to
opinion.
write the letter? Mike?
I'll steal it from, we'll use a template from Josh that he wrote an email a month ago that has a lot of the information that we need.
And now that we know, I don't know if we knew the beginning date on that, but now we know the end date was, yesterday or the day
Yeah.
before. I
Yes.
mean, so we can say, this project was initiated on this date and it was not
The
concluded until
project
such and such.
completion date was July 30th.
Yeah,
That was
so,
in the
Well, I
contract.
will draft a letter and I'll send it over to you, Josh. Could you?
yeah, get with Bill too on,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah.
dates.
Do you want to hold a 10% retainage on them or something?
I think that's
Uh,
handled,
that
that's
help
already
PwC?
handled through the county, isn't it,
No.
Josh?
Yeah, I think this check was just an invoice they had sent,
Well,
2 months
The
ago.
check's dated July 31st
Yeah.
and they submitted that.
Yes.
Long time ago.
So yeah, we do still hold with, have retainage on the project.
We sell the retainage
Yeah.
on it.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we're all on board with sending a letter, and then I guess the discussion is, who does that letter go to? Do we send a letter to the county engineer's office? Number one,
Soon, right?
thanking them for helping us with the project and getting it completed. And then express our displeasure with the contractor and then make the statement that very unhappy with it, and we'll come up with the wording, and we.
Do you have to have, like, if you say this has been prior years, it's not a one-time thing, prior years, and do you have to document from the prior years what the instances were?
I think you just need to have, we would just cite this year's project. You just need something recorded. Yeah. So we have two options. We can send a letter directly to Carvo and say, we're not happy with the work or not happy with the schedule and these items. We're just letting you know in advance that we are not happy with this and we may not consider you for future years' work. Or we send it to the county. If we send it to Carvo, it's done. We send it to the county then, we can even encourage them, you might want to provide this to Carvo, but they might get it and say, well, hey, you really don't want to do that for some reason. It's kind of that interim step that.
I'd go through the county. They're the ones who manage the job, right?
Yes, and that's my take. We go through the county, we start the letter off with, how appreciative of them we are for the service they provide to us, and
And the county's the one that recommends, they review the bids every year and recommend who they think is the lowest and best bidder.
and then.
Well, it's always
also,
low. I don't think best, right? It's just always lowest.
Lowest is always the
Yes.
Well,
So-
lowest,
Yes.
yeah.
best.
It's not lowest and best. It's lowest is the best.
And then-
right?
Mike, can you talk to Concord Township? Let them know we're going to be sending a letter of.
If they've had issues.
I will confirm with them, but I believe they are doing the same thing.
Okay, and you just let them know that we are now.
That's interesting.
So they've had issues as well then?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they're as
All right, good.
unhappy as we are.
Right,
if not
and
more
that's so the coordinated, and if they would send it to the county as well, we can coordinate that they kind of go in the mail at the same time and the letters show up at the same time.
I got a question for Bill. Bill, so on those, that one house in particular up there on Nelmar, Did that get taken care of to the property owner's satisfaction, or how did that end up going? You guys had to do some work, I assume?
Yes, we did. And that, we were waiting, the final step was going to be to seal it, and we had to wait for a dry day, and that happened yesterday. And I got a phone call today, a follow-up phone call. Everybody's happy.
Okay, very cool. Thank you much. Appreciate that.
I think, did they do the work on Barrington there? My drive, you know, that.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
them.
I was, because my driveway's all, the end of my driveway was all busted.
Okay, the years, you're talking about a few years ago.
Years ago,
Yeah.
'cause
That's what I say. It's every year.
'Cause-
1 year.
Yeah, we
had to
paid
do
extra for
otherwise.
that, Mike.
Now the end of my driveway's all busted up because of that.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I'll call the town.
we- the county has requested that very soon we submit our list for next year's projects that we want to pay for out of our levy money so that they can get working on the specs. We would want to go to bid in early February again, open them in March and get started. So we had talked earlier about doing the roads in the Manhattan area. And so we were going to do Ridgecrest, and that's going to be a little different than the other roads. We're going to use the fabric on Ridgecrest just for the, I think it gets a little bit more truck traffic than the Manhattan area would. And so with all of the Manhattan area and Base and Savan off of Hale Road.
Can you hang on a second?
No.
Please.
Yes.
Sure.
Trying to find the stupid file I have that has all this information in it. So when you're talking, I don't have to, give me just a moment. I don't see the damn thing. Guess what? I don't see the damn thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So the roads in the Manhattan area, Morgan Drive, Base, Savan, and Park Road Extension off of Hale Road would be a product called Smooth Seal. That's what they used in the OPWC project this year. They're going to mill an inch off and put an inch of this Smooth Seal on. And it's a little bit less expensive. We can get more roads done that way. And I just think that we need to try this. We need to find out if taking an inch off and putting an inch on is going to be a solution for us moving forward in these low impact residential areas. You wouldn't use it on Fairfield or Stratford or Paradise or Lake Road, this heavy traffic. But when you get into a subdivision, it's basically a driveway for the only traffic they get are the people that live in there. I think that this would be a good place to try this. Let's see if it works. Moving forward, we'll know if this is a good solution for dead end roads.
So where do you want to do it at?
We're going to do that in the Manhattan area, Morgan Drive, and Base, Savan, and Park Road.
So Manhattan though it's the traffic for everybody.
Yeah,
So why wouldn't you do that one with the heavier duty and then do the cul-de-sacs with that? What you're thinking? And I'm not a road guy, so I'm asking from an ignorant standpoint.
because I just think I want to know. I want to know what it's going to do for that amount of
Medium
traffic.
traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
not
a
a
whole lot of
through
traffic.
road,
It's
right?
not, yeah, it's not a through road.
And those cul-de-sacs have
And
what, 4 or 5
so
houses on
in
them?
3, 4, or 5 years, if we start to see a lot of reflective cracking and we get in there with a crack sealer, and then at year 7 and 8, it's still in good shape, just needing the crack sealer, then
Yeah.
we're going to know. It's going to be a few years before we know, but we need to start.
So what's the cost to do it right? And then what's the cost to do it this way?
This isn't doing it wrong this way.
Okay, let me correct this. So if you go with a
different way.
full-blown repair, like you normally would, as opposed to doing it this way, what's the cost differential? I want to know how much money I'm potentially wasting down the road.
So you're not,
Or it
well,
might be saving
ahead.
money too.
go ahead, Bill.
The cost
number.
for doing the smooth seal roads is $277,117
For that whole area.
for that whole area. Ridgecrest alone is $107,000 using the fabric on it. So
And so Bill mentioned the smooth seal's cheaper.
Less
so-
expensive,
Well,
what would it be
less
normal, I think,
expensive.
is what Chuck was asking.
So it's
better value.
less expensive to do it. The material itself is more expensive, but you're going in and doing an inch of the material because it's better material as opposed to coming in and say doing 1.5 inches or 2 inches.
Why is it better material? What's better?
The boy, now you're getting into
The density, the whatever. all
It's,
that.
yeah, it's the binder that holds the asphalt together and the additives in it makes it a stronger material. So you use less. So even though it's more per cubic yard, you're using less of it.
So it's
So-
not like the better material they use on Fairfield that's falling apart and cracking everywhere, right? Because that was a better material too.
Was that the
remember.
ground
That
tire?
was just,
ground
that was
rubber
just a
tires?
bad year for tires.
Yeah,
That's what
okay.
that was.
It had the ground tires in it.
They're looking for a way to reuse tires.
So
Yeah.
Bill, you said 277 to do it this way. What, if I were to do the same area, traditional repair method, what would that cost?
I'd
Can
have
you
to be,
approximate it?
I can get it for you. It's on here per road. I don't have every road added up doing it. Pick option one.
Well, Ridgecrest. you
Okay,
gotta
so,
have that
well, okay,
Ridgecrest.
so Manhattan,
Manhattan.
if we were to remove 1.5 inches of pavement and add 1.75 inches of pavement, it would be 112,682. Smooth seal, Manhattan Parkway, 78,704.
About a $50,000 difference.
Yeah, that's just for the one road.
40%.
All right, so we'll find out within
Yeah.
8 years if it's a good thing or not.
I need to follow up with the county to find out if Perry Township is interested in doing their section of Bartwood. If they don't want to do their section, we're not going to do our section.
That's fine.
Okay.
Sure.
I know that Perry was looking at doing some projects, so we'll find out if they want to do that. Okay, and then I want to remind everybody that the brush drop-off area, leaf drop-off is open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3, Saturdays 10 to 2. It's been very busy with the weather, the way it is. And our first curbside collection will be Saturday, November 14th. We will be using Major Disposal to help us with a garbage truck, and we'll still have our trucks out with the.
What day is that?
Saturday, November 14th.
7 a.m., have them on the curb, brown bags only, no plastic, no sticks.
Yes.
And it's one day.
Yes.
Just to follow up on the road paving a little bit. So Bill, Ted, and I have all talked about the different options for the roads. Bill evaluated the roads and came up with what roads to do. I stayed out of that. I try not to get involved with selecting specific roads, but then the treatment for what we do, with my background, I try to get heavily involved in. The smooth seal, a lot of times, since it is going down thinner, you can cover more area with a truckload of material. A lot of times the smooth seal is put down full width of the roadway. That was done this year on our project, which the big benefit there is you eliminate that center joint, which is always a failure point. That we crack seal, but it's always a failure point. So the smooth seal gives us the option to pave the full width at once. You have a uniform layer without that center joint that always falls apart.
Is such a road supposed to have a slight, so how do they do that?
They can,
Machinery
the machine
does
can, yeah, the machine can do that.
And the slight disadvantage of that is it's more of an inconvenience for the residents that day because they're doing the whole road at once. And if you want to get out, you're probably not going to get out
There may be a
as quick as you
10,
would
15
normally.
minute, yeah.
So it's a little bit of a trade-off. It's one day of inconvenience, but it may help the road last a few years longer.
So would you do something like that, for example, in the neighborhood that I live in, like a
Yes.
subdivision?
Yes,
Same sort of thing, and ends
Yes,
up saving money?
because same reason, it's local traffic.
And plus, but I guess, and even newer subdivisions, the roads were built correctly. We ran into some roads this year where it was just concrete on poor soils. Newer subdivisions were built correctly with the stone base and you build up. So yeah, this treatment is perfect for.
Yeah, and if this turns out to be a good option, I think a majority of our roads are low volume, dead ends, cul-de-sacs. This could be a good deal for us moving forward. We're able to stretch our paving money.
Especially if the road's in fairly good condition still. If the road's falling apart, you can't do this, but
At least if it lasts 70% as long as you're making money
Clipper
back.
Cove first, right?
It lasts,
Silver Coast?
Oh,
we can stop and start paving on either side of a house if you need to.
It's another code.
yours is a P, right?
It is IP.
Yeah.
Okay, we good?
Okay, very good. Any questions for William?
No.
All right, move on to our esteemed fire chief, Huffman, Fire Department.
The main thing I have is I'm gonna ask the trustees to pass a resolution to get rid of an old fire truck that we have sitting behind Station 3. It's a 1994 reserve engine. Our mechanic's telling me now that the pump is going bad in it, so it's really of no use to us to have it sitting back there anymore. Been talking with, or I get emails with Jason, looking at the rules that we have to follow to get rid of equipment like that. It has to be a resolution. If it's over, to say it's not being used by the fire department anymore. If it's over 2,500, then we have to advertise it for auction. The trucks that I've seen go at auction recently, Grand River just sold one. It was $800. I think Larry bought it. But anyway, and then I sold one in Leroy for $1,000. So they don't bring much at auction. They really don't. So I would like just to ask you guys to pass a resolution having me sell it outright and get rid of it for 2,500 or less, especially since the pump shot on it. So that's all I have.
That's all that thing's worth, huh?
What's that?
That's all that thing's worth?
I think they're worth more, but they just don't sell much at auction. People don't bid on them.
But what do you, we're not gonna, are you gonna buy one for the township? For-
If it was running, if the pump was in good shape, I would try to get another department to be interested, but since it's not, I don't really want to mess with it, or I don't think they should either.
Even the new chief's vehicle.
Park in his driveway when he goes home.
That's gonna be your new vehicle. We're gonna take your truck, your SUV, and you can have the engine
Okay.
to drive around.
Yeah,
The vehicle self-run or you mean the pump the water?
More than likely, it'll sell for $2,500 for the engine.
All right, so we're gonna move on to zoning department. Who wants to go first? Ms. De Leon, you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to inform the trustees that Tractor Supply has removed all of their temporary signs and they have switched out their fencing. And I don't know if you guys have been by. It looks a million times better. It's really nice. And
Good.
that's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Zoning software going?
That we hit a bump in the road. I don't know what you would call her, software tech person. So we've got two people that we deal with that we meet every Wednesday. There's Stephen George, he's our project manager, and then Tanisha is under him, and she's the one that is making all the edits to the software that we're requesting as we're customizing it to our needs. And more recently, now Tanisha's been going through some things personally. She has surgery this week. But more recently, Tanisha, as she's making the edits, I guess she was doing it incorrectly and they were looking back through her logs. She wasn't following the correct process. So the work that she was putting in was deleting previous work. I don't know how it works exactly, but they've had a discussion with Tanisha about going through, doing the process correctly. They're going to be doing all of the updates. They're going to be looking through all of the information we've provided, and then they'll allow us to start validating again. To be fair to her, Tanisha, I don't think we've had an issue with her work not remaining until more recently, now that she's going through whatever she's going through. But Stephen George has been extremely apologetic about the whole situation, and they're trying to get that situated. But we're close.
We can
It's
be
just
like by the end of the year, up and running, we think.
as long as she's not making the mistakes,
Yeah.
because I think we
Their
were
problem.
extremely close and we were fine tuning everything. And then we would go in
Talk.
to validate that work that she did to correct all the little fine items. And would find something else that was working correctly was no longer correct.
Was there a deadline they had to get this up and running?
I believe we were at the end of, I have to look at the contract again to be sure, but I believe it was September was
I
our
mean-
projected date.
Not to be insensitive, and definitely, sympathize if she's going through some things, but this is really their problem and not an us problem.
We
and
contracted business. not
We
a person.
contracted for professional services at how much money is this costing us?
A significant amount.
Yes.
I-
A significant amount of money. And for them to be giving us excuses that their one girl is having some personal issues, to me, that doesn't fly.
I agree. I agree. And to be fair to Stephen George, I'm definitely not, well, he's not offering Tanisha excuses. I am because I'm, that's me. That is me.
Well,
I'm
I
like,
guess,
"Oh, poor
I guess
Tanisha,"
let me
but
rephrase
Stephen
this.
George is-
What are they offering as a concession because of all these issues?
They have not offered, but I can request.
We're November and they don't seem like they were any closer than they were in August, really, or maybe even backwards now. And we're paying a ton of money for this software that you guys need to do your job more efficiently. So essentially it's costing us money because it's time that now that you're back and forth with them for software that doesn't work and it's not solving the problem it was meant. The reason we're buying it was to solve an issue for time management for you guys. So we're getting hit double now for something that should have been in place already that we're paying a lot of money for. So I would like to hear some solutions from, I don't know, speaking on behalf of them, but I think we need to hear some solutions from the owners of this company that we're paying a lot of money for a professional service that has not been delivered. And I think that thus far would be unsatisfactory of what they've been delivering us, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think incurring additional time on both of your ends to coordinate the additional time of not being able to use this and be as efficient, which eventually does translate into lost dollars for
right.
us. So, yeah, absolutely.
It just seems very, for lack of better terms, amateur hour-ish that this is happening.
At Dude Solutions?
Yeah, I guess, I felt since that from the beginning, but it seems like it's, living up to what I was worried about,
Do we have a contract with them?
We do.
Okay. I guess, can you provide that to legal and see if
They're in breach of contract and what ramifications.
liquidated
Definitely
damage,
take a look at it.
liquidated damages or?
Yeah,
I don't know.
at this
Yeah, I
point,
don't
we're
know
2
what's in
months
there.
past and we're not any closer than we were at the date of supposed to be delivered. Or even worse, we might be behind based on what I'm hearing. So
And some,
So we're the bad guys here, so it's easy on you. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
get them
Yeah.
what we got
I
and
try to
push
talk
it.
them out.
And
My bosses said this and.
And I definitely appreciate you being sympathetic to somebody's personal issues, which we're not being insensitive, but we have,
I understand. Someone's
Okay.
got to do it.
Well, and a
Right.
lot of times, as soon as you start talking about, hey, you're in breach of contract, there's, we want to assess financial penalties. A lot of times, just starting to talk about that gets them moving a little quicker.
Right.
So.
Okay, very good. Anything else for Harley?
Nothing more for me, Mr. Chairman.
Rich, do you have anything?
Just one little quickie on Safe Store. Title to the property that they're going to build on should transfer around the middle of the month. They are working out a few details with stormwater management. Other than that, I've got their application. I've got their drawing sets. Everything is ready to issue their final zoning permit as soon as they send their check for the fee. And that should be probably within the next week. That's it.
When do they anticipate starting?
They probably want to break ground before the end of the year. I believe that is their target.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Rich?
That's it.
All right, go to legal advisor, Mr. Hartzell.
Nothing from legal, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing. Did I pronounce your name right?
You got it.
No kidding. All right, administrator, Mr. Mannery.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Patriarca,
I request a resolution to certify the cleanup costs for 900 Bellevue Avenue in the amount of $302.
is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Patriarca. All right, trustees, I need a motion to request a resolution to approve deposit payment to Mark's Building in the amount of $6,915 for the Painesville Township Entry Door Project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excuse me. Trustees, I need a motion to request a resolution to approve payment to Argo Chem Incorporated in the amount of $5,678.55 for the brine tank in the service department.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, I need a motion to request a resolution to approve the sales of the 1994 Reserve Fire Engine that is currently being stored behind Fire Station number 3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Trustees, do you have anything?
One more thing really quickly, Mr. Chairman. I know we talked about some zoning issues earlier. We also had some water issues on one of our new roadways. I think, Mike, were you coordinating with stormwater on that, Ava June?
Well, a number of us were.
Okay.
But yes, I was.
Okay, and, I think that looks like it's working itself out. And just touch on it, it looks like stormwater is holding to the dates that were in the initial letter of violation that, yeah, even though there's some ongoing stuff, here's your date, you need to meet it. And I think that just kind of echoes to what you were saying with the zoning stuff, that start to set the dates and just go with them. So, but thank you to everybody working that one out, and hopefully the property owner gets a resolution that meets their needs.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So Mike, I saw the email today that you sent off on that. And I didn't get in all the great details. So is the problem of the basement flooding, is it that it was so close to or was there a problem with, so why did the basement flood?
The
Do we know?
basement has nothing, the water in the basement has nothing to do with the pond.
Okay, just
Okay.
coincidental, it's that close to it.
It's coincidental. The water is actually coming from,
There's some pump that's tied into a storm sewer pipe that runs between the rear of the properties on the west side and the condo development. There's a common drain, storm sewer, and just before it gets to that house that was affected, it goes out and ties into the street. And the street ties into the pond. So.
That was when the pond got to a certain level, it impacted that drain. Is that not what's happening?
When the pond comes up, water backs up in the pipes.
And then goes in their house, right?
So there's no backflow preventer on that line that's leaving the sump pump?
That I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
But it isn't, it was not a question of the pond backing up and coming through the walls, through the floor, or anything like that. The sump pump discharges out of the other side of the house, opposite side from the pond and into a storm sewer line.
That's how it's supposed to be. So it was coming back through, the basement was flooding up through the sump pump. Am I understanding you correctly?
That's what I understood from the original email, yes.
Okay.
We
All right.
should have a check valve on it so it can't come back.
Yeah, you gotta have a check valve on it.
Good thing, especially if it's tied into
That was
Okay.
all I had.
All right, that's all we've got. Thank you very much. Is there a motion? I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. It's like 8:33 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, folks that attended.
Major leaguer.